Okay, hello everyone. This is Michaelangelo Hamilton here with the Michaelangelo Hamilton Show. And today we have a great special guest. Her name is Sabrina Javellana. She's running for a city commission in Hallandale Beach, Florida. Thank you so much for joining our program. I appreciate it. So, talk to us about your run for office and what you're doing in Hallandale Beach.
Okay, thank you again, Michaelangelo, for having me. And I think it's really important to support young people like you and myself who are doing this kind of work to really bring awareness to candidates and issues that maybe not everyone is giving the same platform to. So, once again, my name is Sabrina Javellana, and I've lived in Hallandale Beach for 20 years, as long as I've been alive. And I grew up in the city, and I went to the schools in the city, and I've always lived in the same neighborhood. So, I'm running for office here because I don't like what I'm seeing. I see my friends leaving town because they can't afford to live here. I see, our schools not getting the proper attention. Our three public schools in our city, I mean, not getting the proper attention and investment that they should be getting. Certain neighborhoods not getting the same investment and opportunities that other neighborhoods are getting. And, just an affordable housing crisis that is overrun with developers building, luxury condos. They're advertising that we'd live on the beach and everything. So I'm really running to make this a people-powered city commission again. Instead of people who are kind of doing this for profits, people are doing this to further their resume. I mean, I don't have anything to gain from this. I mean, I could be a regular college student, working. Instead, I am running a campaign and getting a huge time consumption from this. And I have people following me. I had people who had sent me some crazy threats in the beginning.
Oh,
Some,
no.
yeah, I mean, someone had called me, a teenage witch and said they were going to crush me. And I've had people, like
Wow.
outside my house. So, I mean, I have nothing to gain from this, but I'm doing it because I care about Hallandale and I really love this place. And I want to continue living here and making this a place where other people want to live or go to school or maybe even work in. So that's a little bit about why I'm running. And I didn't really get into what I do or anything if you wanted me to do that.
Sure, absolutely. And, something that I saw, you're a young person, need more young people in public service. So I guess talk to us a little bit about that and how can young people get engaged in the political process like yourself?
Yeah, so definitely. So, like I said, I'm 20 years old, and there's other young candidates like me in the state of Florida and in the United States who are running for school board, for city commission, for state house, and I'm really inspired by them. I'm not the first, and I won't be the last. And it's not easy to get into. I promise you that. So, you want to be a young person who wants to get into politics, whether running for office or, just getting to know the political process or working for someone running for office, you have to really know your stuff. And the way I got to know my stuff is by interning and having a mentor who actually was an elected official. And mentorship is one of the most important aspects about, getting into your field or something you're passionate about. So my mentor was really invested in leaving kind of a legacy in me, in sharing her knowledge from all levels. From she was a state commissioner, a state rep, state senator, school board member, and really sharing that knowledge with me so that I can, practice that and then mentor other people because you have to lift as you climb. So I'm not doing this so I can get to a higher position and a higher position, even though I do believe we have to build a bench of, capable candidates to run for different offices. I'm doing this so, younger people can see me in this position and, realize that politics and being an elected official isn't reserved just for, people who have their careers like already halfway over. They're in their 50s, 60s. And, and it's not also reserved for white people. It's not reserved for men. So, I'm a young woman of color. I'm also a Filipino woman, and I'm really proud of my heritage. And I think, various identities and diverse identities are really important and crucial to forming good policies. So if we don't have diverse voices and faces at the table of Black, brown, women and men, trans men and women, people from all areas of like, if we don't have them all represented at the table, in every level of office, then we're not going to have a productive government that serves all people. So I know I got a little bit off topic, but for young people who are really interested into politics, I would just say, try to find a mentor, do some networking around with, other people your age, because they may know someone who is mentoring them. And I would also say, don't be afraid. People are always open to teaching and learning and listening. At least that's been my experience. And I mean, don't let people intimidate you. That's definitely been my case. People see me as someone, a young woman. What does she know? People question your capability to be a leader or, your qualifications when, that doesn't have to be the case. We should really be welcoming young people because we're the changing face. We're, one of the fastest growing voter blocks in this country. And we really have an important say. Speaking of that, I really do think we need to change the voting age to 16, to 16. My bad. So, because, high schoolers are extremely intelligent. As we've seen in the last couple months and the last couple years, all these young people rising up and organizing their schools, their classmates, their communities. I think, young people aren't these, little immature people that, the older generations like to paint us out to be. So that's a little bit of my thoughts on young people and diversity in politics.
Well, that's amazing. That we need more young people out there, running. So, talk to us about, exactly what's going on in Hallandale Beach. Is there any corruption going on? Is there anything that you like to see changed in Hallandale Beach?
Yes. So I don't know if you've seen in the news, but Hallandale Beach is constantly in, every local paper, every local TV station, and even national ones as of the last year, because we are a cesspool for corruption, unfortunately. We've had commissioners and mayors who have resigned, been arrested, been removed, all sorts of different things, people getting payouts, people accusing others of stalking. It's a really unhealthy, toxic, hostile place. And people always warned me, you don't want to run for this commission. They will come after you. And I saw it to be true, but some things are worth the risk. So in Hallandale, we have a lot right now, as I was saying, diversity is so important, and we have an all-white city commission. And I really don't think that's reflective of the community we live in. And especially in Hallandale, we have 3 public schools that all fall within the west side of the city. And the west side of the city is actually one of the parts of the city that is given less attention to when that shouldn't be the case. And so we have to give a little bit of historical context when we talk about, east, west, northwest, northeast. So, we all know, the United States was segregated. We had Jim Crow laws. And Hallandale Beach was one of those segregated cities. And so the separating point was, you're from Broward, so maybe, Dixie Highway where the train tracks run. So everyone west of the train tracks were people of color, and east of the train tracks, closer to the beach and the coastal line were all the white people. And so we kind of still see that segregation today. And, all on the west are our 3 public schools, which have majority brown and black kids as the students. The numbers show that. So as I was saying, so, not having an all-white city commission doesn't represent the people in the city. And so, like I was saying, the west side hasn't been getting the proper development it should be. And people have been trying to develop into that portion of the city that developments that aren't going to serve those people. It's a lower middle class income area where people can't afford, $1,500 a month for a 1-bedroom apartment. It's just a complete affordable housing crisis. And so we see gentrification happening. Families that have been there historically for generations are moving out further west because they can't afford to live in this area anymore. And, so same thing. There's a city, not a city, in Hallandale, there's a road called Foster Road in the Northwest, which used to be full of businesses, restaurants, different businesses, a club, and it's pretty much desolate now. There's very few businesses there. And it used to be, one of the best business districts in the area. And, people want, their businesses to come back. People want, residential houses. but all the city's kind of offering them is condos. And that's not really, the long-term housing options that this community wants. And same thing, like, are they even going to be affordable? Are they all going to be rental units? What about long-term housing? So that's kind of just one of the many issues that I see happening in Hallandale. And another is really, like I was talking about, the developers and our special interests, our corporate interests, the casino industry, the racetrack industry. They play a really heavy role in our Hallandale elections. So they pour over $100,000 in elections. We saw that happen in 2016 for the city commission races. You would think this is like a state house race or, something with a lot larger impact. But no, it was for a few city commission races. And it's because, they really wanted those controlled votes on the city commission. And so I don't think that if you accept corporate money, then you automatically, are voting their way. But I think it really does have a heavy influence maybe on your vote or your thought process. So in my campaign, I have, pledged to not take any corporate money from special interests, from lobbyists. So that was, and of course, that was really difficult because I'm severely outfunded. But I think it's something that reflects my values that I just had to do. And so like I said, the influence of lobbyists and developers in the city over any project is huge. And another thing besides, the affordable housing, gentrification lobbyists, is really the treatment of our local city employees. So our police and fire and our sanitation workers and, our overall administrative employees. Last year in our city budget, in October, it was voted and they had their healthcare cut. And our appointed mayor at this time right now, he said their premiums were just, luxurious. And I really don't think that was the case. Healthcare is a human right. And we see right now people, having a healthcare crisis. We almost saw in a repeal of Obamacare last year, that would have cost millions their healthcare and, premiums to go up every month. And people already still can't, afford what they're paying just for simple healthcare. And, so I really thought that was inappropriate. And in the same budget where our city employees' healthcare was cut, our city commissioners gave themselves a $10,000 raise. So these are people who are kind of doing this job to, as their full-time job, to make money, to, not do anything else. When we see most politicians keeping, another job, they're working as a mom, they're an attorney, they're a real estate agent, they're a teacher, working all kinds of different jobs. Meanwhile, in my city, unfortunately, they're trying to make a profit out of public service, which is not my value. So, the treatment of our local workers and, our unions, they're completely disrespected. I mean, there's talks right now of our sanitation department and, our fire and police being, outsourced, privatized to an outside contractor for sanitation, garbage pickup, and same thing for fire and police to be merged with BSO. And I really think we have to keep things local. We saw after Hurricane Irma in cities like Hollywood and North Miami Beach, how after the hurricane, they had private contractors who didn't honor their contracts and went somewhere else where they'd make more money. And they didn't get their trash picked up for weeks after the hurricane, which, caused road issues, power issues. It even causes rodent infestations. So it's a general, public safety hazard. So, I mean, and, why are we trying to fix something that's not broken? So that's just a few of the many issues in Hallandale right now as of, the last couple years. And those are issues, I've kind of been mobilizing and working on for the last year and a half, telling people what's going on because, as we know, not everyone pays attention to their city government. We get so caught up in like the federal government and our crazy president, what is he doing today, that we don't know what's happening in our own, kind of backyard. Yeah.
Absolutely. And that's a lot, there's a lot going on there. Mm-hmm. Isn't that the same city that had the FBI involved with someone got indicted or something like that? Is that the city I'm thinking of?
There's a couple cities.
Something like that.
There's a couple. But yes, our former mayor is going through a trial. Well, she will be in the fall for charges of inappropriate campaign contributions. So that she was charged in January and removed by the governor. and the vice mayor at the time was appointed as the mayor. And so he's kind of a bigger problem regarding the way he treats women, people of color, and pretty much anyone who doesn't agree with him. He is a very intimidating and hostile person, unfortunately.
Right. It's very problematic. So, who's the current incumbent right now in that district seat, by the way?
Okay, so my opponent that I'm running against was appointed to the commission in February due to someone's resignation. And he was appointed in a little bit of a problematic meeting. For cities, they have to advertise a city meeting at least 48 hours in advance. So that means through email, through, bulletin boards in the city hall, and let people know that this meeting is going to occur. So the meeting in which he was appointed was, the notify emails were not being sent out. And it was kind of like whoever is in this room tonight is going to be appointed to the seat. And there were only, very few residents, less than maybe 5 or 10 in the room. And people were shocked. It's like, we have a process to appoint a commissioner in the case that it's too late for a special election. And it's a whole, we're going to advertise the open seat, let people apply, then do interviews, then do voting. And that wasn't what happened. It wasn't a transparent democratic process. It was, he was appointed in a 45-minute meeting, and we had 2 commissioners vote yes and 1 commissioner vote no. And so that's how my current opponent is in the commission. And I don't think he's a bad person at all. I just don't agree with the process that it went about. And I don't really agree with some of his policies and some of the ways he's chosen to take a leadership style, such as, the way he collaborates with, I'd say, the really toxic and oppressive members on the city commission by, being beholden to the people who appointed you. So, you kind of vote yes on any project or thing that they are proposing, even if maybe it isn't something that reflects, like democratic values. So that's who I'm kind of running against right now.
So in a 45-minute meeting, less than like 10 people, you could just be appointed. Is that like what's going on over there?
I know it sounds really wild, but that's Hallandale Beach 101 for you. There's secret meetings, there's hostile meetings, and I just kind of want to make this a better, more productive place. So in my studies, I'm a junior at Florida International University. I study international relations and political science. And in my international relations field, I really focus on diplomacy and really making things work. So, we talk about like the Cold War, we talk about the Korean War, and what are some like diplomatic tactics that were employed. And, I really believe in these olive branches and, laying down arms. I really believe in, finding a way to compromise. And that's not what, so those aren't really the practices that are being practiced right now. And, I believe I have that different knowledge, that education to really employ things that are meant at an international level, but can be implemented at a local level. So, yeah.
Right. So there's a lot going on over there, and you're working to get things done. So what are some things that you are thinking about, implementing in the city if you're elected, or what things are you hearing from local residents that they currently are hoping to get done?
Yeah, so I definitely have a few ideas of so canvassing, I've really met a lot of people who had all their own concerns with this city. So a few things I wanted to propose were kind of a ordinance that would force transparency between the city government and the lobbyists who are lobbying different commissioners or the mayor. I think, in the meeting when they're voting on a certain ordinance or resolution, that it really has to be stated, who's the lobbyist who is behind this project and what relationship do they have with the commissioner or the mayor voting on it. Because we often don't see the behind the doors, deals, dinners, lunches where these things are voted on, way in advance before the meeting actually happens. So I think transparency between lobbying and our elected officials is so important. And of course, there's some other laws that I would love to implement in Hallandale Beach, but they are, preempted by the state government. So I would love to see us become a sanctuary city. I would love to see, an assault weapons ban in, public places in the city like parks, but we can't do that, unfortunately, due to the state legislature and, their GOP controlled mess. But some other, realistic things would be some environmental protections, really punishing, the local corporations or businesses in the city who are polluting into the intercoastal that we lie on, or really, like leaving their trash around, because that, Hallandale Beach lies on the ocean, and also, we have some really great open areas, and we really see, people just leaving trash anywhere, and people dumping their pollutants into the ocean. And of course, with this whole blue green algae red tide mess, we really can't afford any more wildlife being hurt, or people going into the ocean and getting sick afterwards. So those are some important things, I think, really keeping corporations accountable in the city, because that has not happened.
Right.
Yes, and then some things, local residents have been, there's one other thing I was actually working on last year. Okay, so we know our public schools are severely underfunded by the state and by the school boards, and, cities aren't really meant to fully fund our public schools, but I think we can provide aid and assistance in some ways. So Hallandale Beach, for the last 10 years, has provided a resource officer to the high school to teach a magnet program regarding criminal justice. And, it's all gone well for the last 10 years. People who graduated from this program had an opportunity to immediately graduate and get into the career field by working as a community service officer or a community service aide. They get, experience in like the legal aspect of life, government and law enforcement. And it just really built better community and police relationships. And so last year, the city, in an effort to, save money, pulled the resource officer from the school. They said, we can't afford to, and they put the burden on the school after they had already, made their budget for the year. And our local principal had pled with the commission, we need some help, like otherwise over 200 students will be displaced. And so I really begged our city manager, and I brought testimonies from former alumni of the Criminal Justice Magnet Program to really save it. And it all fell on deaf ears from the city commission, from the city manager. And I think part of that is because most of them didn't go through Hallandale High School or our wonderful Gulfstream Academy K-8. So the public schools we have in the city, these are people who didn't grow up here, so they don't have the same investment or really care for, what's going on. Right. So those are just a few things that I personally would want to see happen. And same thing, people have been telling me they really want to improve our public schools. They really want more green space, less development. More development equals more traffic. Who likes traffic? And, further protection of our wildlife, and more biking, more public transportation. So, and then same thing, like I said, keeping things local. They don't want to be outsourced to a private trash collecting company that's not going to do the right job, or, they don't want to get rid of our police or our firefighters who are, same thing, doing a great job. We have a new police chief who is really building relationships in the city and makes an effort to, listen to people and kind of deliver and improve upon feedback. So, these are officers who know the city, who know the people in the areas. So, when you have people who know the areas, as opposed to someone who's in one city one day and a completely different part of the county the next day, what kind of different responses are you going to get? So those are just a few things I'm hearing from people.
That's very true. There's a lot of politicians out there that'll live in one city and then they work in another. So it's pretty crazy. Something I wanted to ask you about was about, Broward County School, the school board and the teacher pay. What do you think about the, current election for the at-large position for the school board?
For at large, so I know there are 3 candidates, the incumbent and 2 newcomers, and I actually just heard from one of them for the first time the other day. My Democratic Club yesterday, the Hallandale Beach Area Democratic Club, hosted a primaries candidate forum where we invited all candidates who are going to be on the August ballot to come speak. And one of the ones who came out was Miss Donna Corn. And, she was a good public speaker, but everything she said, I don't know if that's fully attributed to her personally or, the board as a whole, or, where we have to go from here. So she talked about all the successes, but I didn't really hear this is where we fall short, this is where we're weak, and this that's something I want to improve on if I'm elected for the next 4 years. So, all I heard were good things. I want to hear, we have work to do. Obviously, Mr. Petty, we all read that Sun Sentinel article, and of course he says these tweets were years ago, they were from a TV show, but I really don't think I don't want someone like that representing, all the 200,000+ students in Broward County who are diverse. I think it was last year that the school board designated schools to be, sanctuary schools. ICE and immigration aren't allowed to come into these schools and take these students. And I don't know if that's someone who would really uphold that. And then same thing today, I saw he was endorsed by Senator Marco Rubio, Senator Orrin Hatch, 2 very outspoken conservatives who I don't think I agree with anything on. And Orrin Hatch was absolutely abhorrent in last year's healthcare battle. Elijah is someone I kind of met, I think maybe this year. And we've worked together on, a few different projects regarding students and, running for office as a young person and, commiserating on how people are treating us. But actually, last time I saw him was last week at Black Lives Matter Alliance Broward, and we had a workshop called Toxic Masculinity, where we kind of thought, where do we see toxic masculinity now, and what is healthy masculinity? So just in that conversation with him, I really, built a great relationship, and I think Elijah is a really cool person who would do great in the school board. And there's these young people who aren't being invested in. Obviously, we don't have the 20 years experience working in this field, but, people can invest, people can give us the resources to learn, people can help, build the younger generation, but we don't really see that happening. People talk all about, the young people will win, this and that, but what are you doing to help the young people win besides, just retweeting an article about the MSD,
Right.
Students and alumni? Really, what about all the other kids in Broward County and the state who are actually working as well? Are you how are you uplifting them? So
Absolutely.
that's a little bit of my thoughts on the school board race, even though I haven't been following the school board races and judicial races as closely as I probably should have.
No problem. I know Elijah T is a great person, and I just wanted to get your opinion about the whole school board issue. Is there any way our viewers can help out with your campaign, get in contact with you, find your social medias?
Yeah, so this is one thing actually I forgot to do. I had my campaign kickoff last week, and I gave this great speech about why I'm running, what's wrong with Honda, what I want to do, and then I ended it. And then my friend is like, "You forgot to tell people how they can help you." And I'm like, "Oh my gosh, you're completely right. The ask is the most kind of important part of your pitch." So really the important thing is, liking my page on Facebook, friending me on Facebook, telling anyone in Hallandale Beach about me and this people-powered campaign. Same thing, I am very outfunded by my opponent, but, we are not without individual contributions. And those little contributions of, $2, $5, $10 really make a difference in helping us get our message out. And, about 70 to 80% of a campaign's budget goes towards messaging, whether it's, print, media, advertising. That's the way you connect with voters. Knocking on their door with a pamphlet so they can remember you by. And printing, unfortunately, is not it's not the cheapest thing there is, but we've been staying afloat, and just those little contributions make a big difference. And Just, anyone, if you have a cousin or a neighbor, a long lost friend in Hallandale Beach, direct them towards me. I'd love to have a conversation about them, because this campaign isn't about me. It's really about everybody in the city. And I think that's what some candidates get lost on. It's all about, I'm this, I'm the first this, I'm the youngest, or whatever. I'm not running to be all of that. Titles are good, purpose is better. So just, or if any young people have any questions, how do I get into politics? What do I have to know? How do I find a mentor? I would love to mentor younger people in this field, because it was not easy to navigate myself. But now that I've kind of done it, I feel like I can definitely help other young people get into this. So those are a few ways you can help me out, and I could help someone else out, because, it's all about me. But even though we do need to win, so we can kind of bring some important values back to Hallandale Beach, like community, justice, love, helping others. But that's kind of all I had right now.
Awesome. So do you have like a website where people could donate?
I don't have yes, I do have a website. I'm going to say like an actual or a campaign website. So yeah, my donation link is on my candidate, Facebook page, Sabrina Javellana for Hallandale Beach. And it's on my personal page, my Instagram page, and I can put it in the comments of this video. And yeah, that's it.
Awesome. Well, I really appreciate for coming on the program. I wish you the best of luck, and go young people.
Yes, same to you, Michaelangelo. I wish you luck in college and everything you do. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Absolutely.
Bye.